Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for actually watching this video, and if you did enjoy this video and you find this helpful, make sure you subscribe to my channel because this channel is full of awesome content and reviews as well. So in this video we're going to be going into the 1-year review of the DJI Spark and my thoughts about this, and should you actually get this or not, and of course what happens if you actually own this for a year. Right now you can probably get this thing for a fraction of the cost it used to cost when it just came out. In fact, I think version 2 is gonna come up next. I don't know when, but pretty soon. The Mavic Air is almost as good as this. In fact, some people say, why should you actually get this when you can get the Mavic Air? Well, this is kind of small. It's also a lot cheaper than the Mavic Air, especially if you get this used. Now let's go into the downsides of it and what happens after you use it for a year. The biggest downside is the software updates that constantly keep on happening. They're super long and it takes you a pretty long time for you to set up. So for example, if you don't use this for a pretty long time, you can't just go and fly this right away. You have to go upload all the different software updates, and this is like time-consuming process. So make sure you do this before you go and fly. Another thing about this is just how long it takes you to fly this thing. It's not something that you can just go out of the box and fly it. And if you watch my previous video, you will see what I mean, what happens when you do that. And I'm not gonna take away the spoil with it. You should actually check it out. Anyway, what happens is it takes you a pretty long time for you to fly those, and here's why. You have to turn this on, you have to turn this on, and you have to turn your phone, and then you have to connect all those things combined. Plus you have to work with like 3 different gadgets in your hand at all given time as well. And it would have been a lot better if there was only 2 gadgets you have to work with, and keep your phone out of this. And that's the most annoying thing about this, is just you have to constantly have the phone in here. Unfortunately, the Mavic Air has the same exact problem, so you're not going to be solving it with getting this one, the DJI Spark. But it's still annoying. But even more annoying is if you fly it with just your phone. This is necessary for you to have. Don't ever try to fly it just with your phone. The likelihood of you crashing it is exponentially higher than with having a solid real control. No matter how good you are with swiping and using your phone, this gives you a better range. This is easier to fly. This is better for you to use. And this small investment is going to actually save you money, because if you crash your drone, you're going to be paying a lot more money to replace your drone unless you have the Fly More kit, which I totally suggest for you to invest. In fact, my Fly More kit actually just got the time out of it, which means that I either have to pay upgrade to the new one, or of course I have to get a new drone. Maybe I should just get a new drone, or maybe I should not get one at all. Those are the 2 choices I actually have right now. Now a few other things about the DJI drone 1 year later about this, and this actually goes for all the DJI drones. In fact, it goes for all the drones combined. This is the biggest problem with drones period, is that you are now restricted where you can fly this. There's more and more restrictions constantly happening, more and more people getting busted for flying those things and getting in trouble for doing so for the most stupidest reasons out there. So you have to be super careful when you're flying right now, especially if you're in the United States. People constantly trying to file lawsuits against you, cops like harassing you, and actually you're getting fined by FAA for doing things as well. So much legal hassle right now. A few years ago you could just go fly it anywhere. There was almost no restrictions, no laws, and you can do it anywhere you want. Now you have to call the local airport, and there's airports like everywhere. And the funny thing is about DJI Spark, this thing is so light that I don't think this actually will hold an aircraft, just because if an aircraft, and we have a big aircraft coming along, just the waves, the shock waves from the aircraft will probably throw this thing off its track, just because it is Spark and just because of the weight of it. But I'm not saying for you to do this. You definitely should not. If you see something flying and you're actually flying something, if there is a big aircraft or any aircraft, you should be flying next to it. But if you do see one, move this down as soon as you can, and always keep it within the 400 feet limit and obey all your local and state laws. You can get in big trouble, you can go to jail, and that is one of the reasons I don't like flying those things. It is liability. Everybody's like constantly see you like fly this thing, you're actually going and recording them as well. So that being said, it restricts the times you're flying this. It used to be people would be like, "Oh, this is cool, he's flying a drone." Well, the coolness goes off because more and more people are not longer cool with getting filmed with those drones. Now they know this thing is filming them, and they don't like the being on camera. Other people don't like being on camera, especially being on a drone camera. Out of all the other cameras, cell phones and everything else, it is just the drones that annoy them the most. Now the biggest thing and the biggest beef I have with this is not what you think it is. It is actually the noise this thing actually makes. So when you turn this on, it makes a huge amount of noise, and you can't really do much because of the propellers. And when they spin, the big noise they actually make annoys some people, and it attracts a lot of attention. I wish this was a little bit more silent. Also, this thing is kind of dangerous as well. Now, I just got a pet, so I find myself a lot harder for me to fly this because I have a pet, and now I have to go out there and fly it when I'm not with my pet anymore. And plus, this is not child-proof or child-friendly as well. I wish they had something to go and keep those propellers inside here so you can't accidentally hurt yourself. And that's another thing about those drones. It's very easily for you to accidentally hurt yourself because of those spinning propellers over here. I haven't gotten myself hurt, but I know people who have, and you probably seen this on YouTube videos. DJI drone has a special way to keep this from actually accidentally flying into you. Unfortunately, this is only forward walking. It doesn't do it on the back. So it keeps yourself from flying to you. It will go back and it could snap into something else or somebody else as well. So this is not foolproof, and it doesn't have enough sensors here to keep this from actually crashing. And if you turn the automation on, you're more likely to crash this as well. You can actually see this in another one of my videos. It's going to be a link below what actually happened when this thing or the automation was on. It's supposed to keep it from being safe. Unfortunately, it's one of those safety features that actually will cause you to actually crash instead. And that's one thing about I don't trust those latest safety features and all those different features. It makes it more and more sophisticated than it has to be. It's much better for you to manually actually control this than turning all those features on. And I do suggest for you to fly it in a safe space and a place without any trees, and you will see what I mean in the video below, before you decide if you should fly this thing at all. Now, after you fly this for a while, you'll learn more about this, and I only crashed this really bad once when it just got started. Other than that, this thing never had any issues. In fact, this is probably the best drone that they ever created. It crashed really high from the sky, like really high, and it fell into the grass. Nothing happened. It is still flying like new. So that is a lot to be said about this. It crashed into trees and so on. Nothing really happened to this. A little slight damage to the propellers, you can't even see it. So the good thing about this being lightweight, less likely to drop on somebody, and if it does, it's not gonna really hurt them as bad as some of the bigger drones are out there. Of course, it will hurt if it falls down. And another thing about this is just if it falls down, it's not gonna break into a huge amount of pieces, unless of course it falls into concrete. So if it falls into a grassy area, nothing's gonna happen to this. So those are the positive and negatives about this DJI drone. I like the very small size of it, technically speaking. Here's the few negatives about this. Those propellers, I mean, it doesn't fold. So if you want to take this, and anywhere you take it, look this size of this thing. This thing is kind of huge. And with the propeller guards and everything else in place, this thing is kind of big. So The Mavic Air doesn't have this issue. You can fold down the item, it's going to be much smaller. It doesn't have the propeller guards, but at the same exact time it has a lot of sensors that prevent this to crashing into you. So compare this to the Mavic. The Mavic Air, I think, is the superior machine, less likely to crash, a little more expensive, and probably the better investment for your money. And this one you can get it much cheaper if you get the fly mode kit. Make sure you also get this with this, and then you can fly and make pretty good video with this. Unfortunately, here is a few other limitations that I found with this that I really actually dislike, and I'll tell you about them right now. The camera itself. Now the camera itself, the footage is not so great. Also, it is limited on what it can actually take footage of. So you can go down, you can go up and down. That's pretty much really it. It can go side to side. And another thing about this, the only way you can go side to side, this thing will actually do it for itself. So instead of this camera going side to side, you can go with the drone side to side instead. Up and down, you can do it with the drone, but the camera is very limited. It just goes up, down, and this is really it. It can go like this, but what it cannot do is it cannot go sideways. That said, this is a great toy for you. If you do like and want to learn more about drones, right now it is the right time for you to buy this super cheap. You have to be careful. Read the rules and regulations. Fly in a space where you can't get in trouble. Don't fly in a national park. Don't fly close to a national park. Don't actually go and spy on people. Don't do anything that specifically will get attention of cops to you, because you might actually get arrested, and people have gotten arrested for doing the silliest thing with the drones. Of course, doing something illegal with any recording device will get you in trouble. That being said, this is great for what it's actually used for, and it is for videography. It is for taking amazing pictures of things you haven't been able to take before, such as sunset, sunrises, clouds, storm chasing. You can actually do that. I don't recommend for you to fly into storms, but if you see a storm from far away, you can actually fly this up and take pictures of the storm clouds before the storm gets to you. Other than that, keep in mind that this thing is very fragile. It's also is not very good when it comes to very high winds. Very high winds will make this thing shake. It can only stabilize itself for so much before some 60-mile wind will probably knock this thing right out of its location. Other than that, I think that eventually DJI is going to make one of those that's going to be super really great. Eventually it's going to be able to see obstacles such as humans and detect them in every way it goes, like have an actual bubble. Maybe it's going to even shut itself off before it hits somebody, or find a way for them to do this. I think the software is one of the greatest things about DJI. It makes this product just superior to any other company. When it comes to other companies, DJI is the king. It makes the best possible drones out there. Eventually they will create the best possible drone, and every single version, every new drone they come up with is better than the next one. So I do recommend for you to eventually get even a better drone. Now the Mavic Air is probably the one I recommend for you to get because it's the latest one and it is way better than the Spark for the reasons I have given. Out of everything else, if you wait and the end of the summer is coming, you might be able to get the Mavic Air 2, which might be coming soon. So this could be even a greater variation. Even the Spark 2 could be coming as well. I don't know about those products yet. I'm just saying that we always have something brand new coming up after a while. Now that being said, it is an investment. Make sure to get the Fly More kit. This way, if something happens to your drone and you can still locate it, you will get a refund and you will get a brand new drone up to 2 times. The only downside of it is if you can't find your drone, you might not be able to get anything out of it. So if it crashes right into the water, your investment is 100% gone because you can't actually ship it back to them and get the Fly More covering that. Unless of course they change the terms of service, which as of this time they have not. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I hope you find this video helpful, and see you in the next video.